What's up, hackers? Welcome to Attack on Tuesday. My name is Taggart, and I need a haircut. Anyway, also, I forgot to change the subject, Chiron. Let's just sort that out. Anyway, so yeah, tonight we are getting our red team in, and we are going after the remainder of the Wreath network. Now, those of you who were here last Tuesday, first of all, a huge thank you to everyone who contributed to the Human IT charity fund drive. We raised over $1,000 for families in need of low-cost internet connections and computing devices. So first and foremost, a huge thank you to everybody who contributed. I got a big thank you from Human IT on your behalf, and so you should feel great about that. But while we were raising all of that money, we were also going after the Wreath network on TryHackMe. And we got about, I would say, like 2/3 of the way, right? If we were to look at the Armitage graph here, we were able to compromise the production Linux server. And we're going to go through how we did each of those steps. And we were able to get onto the Windows server. And we have, it looks like, according to this, kind of one more thing to do. So we're going to see if we can clean this up. Now, we are definitely doing this kind of our own way. We're not necessarily walking through each of the tool sections here, although we are using many of the tools that they're talking about, including SSH shuttle or shuttle, however you're supposed to say that. And we're definitely using a lot of these others, but we're kind of doing it our own way nevertheless. So let's walk through what we've done so far, just so it's clear. So the first thing we did was we were able to find a website that had a vulnerability that we were able to exploit. After exploiting that and getting code execution on that initial Linux server, we were able to get an SSH key for root. With that SSH key for root, we were able to do a couple of really cool things. First, we were able to, one, gain access, continued access to the machine, but also that machine was able to see things inside the network that we ourselves could not. And so that machine became a pivot point for us. To make it easy for us to use that machine as a pivot point, we employed SSH shuttle. And you can see us doing that right here. So basically what we're doing is we're setting up a, for lack of a better term, really a VPN for this network that routes through that SSH connection that we have going on here. That's really what SSH shuttle is doing. It's a point-to-point VPN that takes whatever address space we identify and routes it through our SSH connection there. So that's what we have so far. Well, not all. Once we had that pivot point established, we were able to further enumerate and discovered another host. That other host that we discovered was this Git server here at 10.200.196.150. Now, it turned out that this also had a vulnerability in a web application that it was running called GitStack, which is some sort of version control. Think of it like GitHub, I suppose, or GitLab, sort of a closed source, not closed source, but alternative is the word I was looking for, version control host. And that exploit actually allowed us to gain code execution on the Windows server itself, and this, because the application was unbelievably running as system, we had pretty much unrestricted access to make changes to this thing, and so we did. The first thing that we did was we added ourselves an admin user to that local machine. Having done so, we were able to RDP into the machine, which is what you see right here. The next thing that we did was we ran a command I really like called, for specifically this purpose. Let me get the font size up a little bit so it's easier to see. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So there is a really important command. Well, I don't know about important, but I like it a lot. Inside of the WinRM command suite called WinRM quick config. And basically this is the quick and dirty way of getting Windows remote management up and running on a Windows system. But I do mean quick and I do mean dirty, because when you run WinRM quick config, what happens is local administrators are configured to be authenticated, or authorized, I should say, for Windows Remote Management. So before we had that set up, I wasn't going to be able to use WinRM or Evil WinRM in any sense. Once I ran WinRM quick config, I was able to, again, using our SSH shuttle tunnel, get WinRM connections into that Windows machine. So that's what we have so far, and that's kind of where we are. Now, I have the remote desktop into this machine, and I also have WinRM in here. And you can kind of see that I've done a little bit of extra work just to get us prepped for right now. So to start, I have uploaded invoke port scan from the Nishang suite of PowerShell, because I want to use my access here to continue to enumerate, right? So I have that set up here. WinRM doesn't seem like it wants to play ball with it. That's totally easy enough to do. Ooh, Smash A Tab asks if an admin changes the WinRM quick config to throw us off, is there a way to reset the config for WinRM? So I want to make sure I'm answering the question that you're asking. Are you, Smash A Tab, are you asking like if an administrator has customized the WinRM configuration to whatever they want? Is there a way to get it back to the way that we, the attackers, want? Is that what you're asking? If so, the answer is, okay, the answer is yes. WinRM quick config will actually bring it back to the configuration that quick config is intending to set up. So like, even if I've gone through, as a system administrator, if I've gone through all the trouble of setting up WinRM the right way, assuming, this is actually interesting, I don't know what will happen if you try to run it with a group policy in place for WinRM. I suspect you'll get it until the next GP update, and then it'll go back to the group policy setting, right? But if you run WinRM quick config, even if it had been configured in a custom way by an administrator, quick config is going to set it to what quick config does. Again, that's kind of why it's quick and dirty. So you can set it to that and get local admins to have Windows to have remote management, but that might mess you up, because if you want the domain users to also be in there as well, there are a few extra things that you would need to do. So WinRM, the tool, has documentation, and you can, instead of just running quick config, you can learn how to use it to set up the WinRM users that you want. There are more in detailed configurations that you can run from PowerShell. Something to think about. So we have port scan uploaded from Nishang, and this is just an easy tool to make this happen. And I have it kind of ready to go here. So I'm going to run invoke port scan. Let me full screen this. Invoke port scan. And I'll let Nishang tell me what I need to do. So if we remember, let me fire up another PowerShell window here just real quick. config, right? So we're at 10.200.196.150. So I'm going to do 10.200.196.1. And 10.200.196.254. I'm just going to scan the /254 or the /24 network. Okay, by the way, networking. Why am I stopping at 254 and not 255? If there are 256 IP addresses in a /24 subnet, and I start at Smash 8 tap, you got it right. 255 is the broadcast address. For those of you who know the networking stuff, that's an easy question. But for those who are just learning networking, that's a common gotcha, where it's like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on with that top level address? So I just wanted to shout that out for anybody who's currently learning networking, and especially those who are going through subnets, because there are certain things like that in there that'll get you when you're just learning it. And so this is going to do a ping sweep across the address space. It's going to take a second, so we'll let that thing run. Now, what I suspect I'm going to want to do is set up another kind of proxy back. And this is a little tricky because I have I can see this machine from my attack box. The attack box really can't see me. So I have a couple of options, and I think what I want to do, or what I want to try to do, is use a tool that Wreath actually did list, which is Chisel. And Oreo Bite was trying really hard during last Tuesday's stream to show me how to use Chisel, and I was like kind of bouncing off of it because I had other stuff going on. No, I'm sorry about that Oreo Bite. But basically, Chisel is very similar to other proxy tools, except that what you have to do with Chisel is you have to put Chisel on both your attack box and the proxy, the reverse proxy source, essentially. The pivot point is another way of thinking about that. You will run, on the attacker, you will run Chisel as the server. By the way, if I'm getting any of this wrong, please correct me. But you run Chisel as the server on your attack box, and then you run Chisel as a client on the pivot point. And then you'll be able to, because you're going to make a forward connection from your attack box, now all of a sudden you have a way to establish that two-way communication from your attack box through your pivot point. So if there is a machine that this thing can see, which we know exists because of the nature of the room, but if we discover something that we want to get access to easily, that's going to make it easier for us to make that happen and maybe run our tools against it. Now, we could also have considered something like Plink, right? Because Plink is like SSH for Windows. But with the advent of SSH for real, like as a first-party thing in Windows, this is less of a go-to. Now, I will also say that this is kind of where the lab and reality diverge, I think. Because if I ping google.com, I can't see the internet, right? This is kind of a closed network. But in real life, depending on what the environment looks like, but in real life, what I might think about doing, and certainly what the bad guys might think about doing, is if I have access to the internet and I have administrator privileges on a server, I might want to think about adding capabilities to the server. And what that looks like would be like adding an because you can configure SSH. You can configure an SSH server on Windows. So if you wanted to do that, all of a sudden you're connecting to the server via SSH. You could use SSH shuttle the same way that you were doing to the Linux box. That's an option too. It's just something to think about. But won't that create logs for the Bloom teamers? Maybe, maybe not, or maybe you don't care. It depends on what your environment looks like. I would agree that you should be careful about that, but I would also say that everything we've done so far is going to create logs for the Blue teamers. Birmingham 13, thank you so much for the follow. One of the things I am more Blue teamer than Red teamer, but I will say that one of the things that I always want to think about when I'm thinking about an attack path, and they're like, but what if this? What if this? What if this? There's always possibilities, right? It's almost like I remember when I'm teaching martial arts and I'm teaching a technique, there's always somebody who's like, but what if I just do this? Yeah, then it won't work, There are techniques that work in certain situations and then techniques that don't work in other situations. You have to evaluate your context and then choose appropriately. So for example, if you're on a machine and you discover that like there's a Splunk universal forwarder, maybe be super careful about what kind of logs you're generating. Or you discover that Windows Event Forwarding is configured. Maybe be super careful about the logs you're generating. But if you discover that those things are absent, maybe you have a little bit more latitude, or EDR isn't present, right? With maybe an event streamer that is sending those events, or sysmon's not enabled, right? If all of those things are absent, maybe you have a little bit more latitude to do what you want to do. So it really depends what your context looks like. He kick you in the knee. Yeah, that's a great. All right, so we found there's 150 and 200. And That's interesting, because it doesn't seem like... That was a ping sweep. How do blue teamers find out if someone is using some kind of reverse proxy like Chisel to forward traffic? So I would say that other than command line stuff, right, if they're looking at sysmon logs in a really good way, that's one way. Another way might be network traffic. If you have good baselines on your network traffic, then you might start seeing weird stuff coming from or to your servers, and that's going to be a dead giveaway, right? So if you're not careful to blend in with the existing traffic, you might give yourself away through NetFlow or through even a more advanced kind of IDS or IPS. If they have kind of a like a Zeek type tool or a packet capture type tool that is looking for anomalous traffic at the packet level on the network, then you might get caught that way because you're going to see something weird coming off that machine. Which is actually one reason why I like SSH as a solution, because if you're not really paying attention, SSH is going to look legit, and if the traffic is tunneled, then there's not a whole lot that you can see with it, especially if it's, you know, beyond the fact that there's SSH happening. You know what I mean? Because with SSH, the odds are that traffic won't be decryptable. It'll be, you know, encrypted via TLS, but unlike your HTTPS traffic, which may be through a reverse proxy, and that they have a certificate for, you have a higher chance, I think, of getting that traffic in under the wire without it being decrypted. One of the realities of blue team life is that you probably never have all the tools that you want to detect the evil. You're going to have to be creative with what you can pull off endpoints, things like that. It won't be as easy as it should be, to be honest with you. Okay, so we saw 150, 200. Those aren't news, really. And we're 150. So that's interesting that it was only a ping scan. Let's see what else. I thought that the scan had some other options. Let's see. Let's cd scan. Let's just vim invoke port scan just to see what else it can do. We got to give it the scan port. So we'll do start address, end address, scan port. That's the deal. So we're going to do invoke port scan, start address 10.200.196.1, end address 10.200.196.254. And we'll do it scan port, right, is the argument for that. Great. So I will also say I loaded this via downloads, and the reason that I felt comfortable dropping this thing onto the file system was because I had already disabled Windows Defender on this server. If that had not been the case, a couple of other things would have happened. The first thing is I could have maybe used evil WinRM, disabling AMC and then going after things that way. That's one way. The other way I could have done it is I could have, even though this Windows machine can't see my attack box, it can definitely see the Linux server that we've already compromised and that we're connecting to via SSH shuttle. That being the case, I could have used the Linux server there as kind of a drop point, and then used invoke web request or some other tool to invoke web request would have been my go-to to load the invoke port scan code into a PowerShell session without having it hit the disk by running it through invoke expression. That's essentially what when we talk about fileless attacks, that's very often the kind of progress or process that we're talking about, where there's a file involved, but it's just that it never hits the disk. It's that it exists totally in memory. And so it downloads that PowerShell code and pipes it directly to invoke expression. Because it's going directly to invoke expression, never hits the disk. The signature based and the sandboxing parts of Defender don't have anything to glom onto. AMPC might still, so you might be careful about AMPC, but those two things are out of the equation. So if you want to be, that's a tradecraft thing, as Husky would say, that's something you want to be really careful about, is what you drop to disk. Now again, because here, one, it's a lab, but also two, I've disabled Windows Defender, also would be a tell for the blue team if they saw those logs. But I had the confidence to drop that to disk without anything evil happening. Incredible. So I'm still only seeing 10.200, 196.150, which is us, and 200, which was the Linux server, which we already saw. I'm interestingly not seeing the 10.200, 196.100 that we're supposed to be seeing. Just as a sanity check, I'm going to ping that. So, like, it's there. What's happening then? Wait. 100. I put the wrong... Interesting. So, like, according to what we were supposed to do, we haven't actually seen anything. I'm going to go down into the section here and see what's up. Oh, there's invoke port scan. I didn't even know that they were doing that. I just figured we should do it. But, nice. Nevertheless, it is curious to me that we are... Now with SSH shuttle enabled, can I run Nmap from here? Yeah, no, that's right. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to... That should go through our SSH shuttle proxy. Should. One of the things we ran into last time was doing this through proxy chains. Running it with sudo wasn't honoring the proxy chains connection, but we're not using proxy chains right now. The only proxy connection we have so far is the SSH shuttle to the Linux machine. Now, if we do see an issue, it'll show up here in this window, this pane, because this is our current status of the SSH shuttle connection. Meanwhile, though, says host is up, but what host? Just 200. But that's also in part because that's all that this machine could see, right? But this couldn't see 10.200. Am I getting the subnets wrong at all? 200.196.100. Interesting. I'm open to the concept that I've missed a step here, but just guessing. Now, they wanted us to use PowerShell Empire, which I'm not using. Okay, we can't ping it, but... And our port scan should have found it. Nevertheless, we've got Firefox on here. Let's see if there's anything. Jesus don't surf. Is Python the best place to start coding? I would say that question belies a lot of complexity. It depends on what you want to do with programming. If you just want to learn how to program, I don't know if it's the best, but Python's a fantastic first language. I really like Python. It was really my first programming language, and I think it's a fantastic place to start. I would also recommend you check out the free MIT courses at edX.org to get started, because that's a really good introduction to not just programming, but the basics of computer science, which, even though it might seem like not as important if you're like looking to make an app or something like that, will pay off in the long run even if you do just a little bit of it. Understanding, good programming practice and algorithmic complexity, things like that, really, really helpful. So yeah, Python's a fantastic place to start. You can also get started at places like Codecademy, Pluralsight if you have a subscription or want to pay for one. I'll also say that 2 years ago, actually, this is how I got started streaming. Was the first stuff I did was called Hack Summer, and I did a YouTube it was a YouTube series at the time on how to get started in Python. So if you go back and check out the Hack Summer stuff on the YouTube channel, you'll find a lot of content with how to get started on Python. Okay, so there's obviously something here. A Udemy course called 100 Days to Learn Python. Okay, cool. Oh, you've been watching the Hack Summer stuff? I'm so glad. All right, so it seems like there is something at 10.200.196.100. I do not know why the Nishang port scan didn't catch it. If I set it up to 100, does it work? Does it catch it then? Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I'm a big fan of the MIT stuff for a very specific reason, which is because they're super graybeards, when it comes to style, my personal preference is kind of like the no-nonsense wizards who seemed like they were around since Bell Labs and know how everything works in the machine. I respond poorly to, honestly, Flash and not flash the defunct software, like polish, basically. I don't respond well to if something's too glitzy. And that includes websites. Like if you're trying to sell me something and it looks too shiny, I'm immediately suspicious of it. That's my own bias. Somebody else makes a great point. Yeah, so one of the things, if you're getting started in programming, that you really want to be careful about is good old tutorial hell, which is you will follow the instructions and you'll be able to do a thing with guidance, but maybe not without guidance. But it's like the leap, it still just finds 150 and 200. What is good? Whatever. Hey, Tsar. But yeah, so the next jump from like learning how to complete the exercises to making a real thing is often a very big leap for people, and that's the leap that you need to take in order to, I think, become not just a hobbyist programmer, but like somebody who can use code to do a thing, to solve a problem, you know. That was the turning point for me, where it was like, I have a problem I need to solve. Oh, but now I know how to write code in order to automate this or to solve this problem, rather than just, I know how to write FizzBuzz. You know, there's a slight difference there, and it's just a matter of getting outside of that tutorial bubble. And honestly, no one but you can decide what that project is going to be. Whatever that first thing is going to be. You need to find an area of need for yourself. And it's okay if other people have done the same thing, doing it for yourself. This is one of those situations in which reinventing the wheel is good. If you do something that is known for yourself, one, you'll have a basis from other people to check yourself against, but also you will yourself internalize the wisdom that comes along with inventing that thing. And that's worthwhile, even if it's been done before. Okay, but we're supposedly hacking this network, right? Although we're not doing such a great job because our port scan can't see the dang IP address that we're supposed to see, which is very funny. But nevertheless, obviously we need to create a proxy connection for it. Basically, we need to get our web browser here access to that port 80. How are we going to do it? Well, I'm going to try to use Chisel, and so I want to set up a Chisel connection, basically, if I understand it correctly, from from my attack box over to here. When using this option, we'll need to open up a port in the Windows firewall to allow the forward connection to be made. That's assuming we didn't totally just bring down the Windows firewall, which I can't remember if we did. That would have been super noisy. No, we did not. And in fact, I want to do it this way because this stuff is really helpful. Learning the netsh commands. And in fact, there's another netsh command that is worth knowing, which is, you can do some of this manually. Some of the proxying you can do manually. Look at this. Is this my administrator shell? No. This is. Okay. So if we do netsh adv firewall, the thing about the netsh commands is that it'll kind of walk you through the commands, right? So it says the following commands are available. Concept export firewall, which is what the room was telling us to do. But there's and beyond that, I believe there's set, right? Nope. Maybe it's in firewall. netsh. It has a shell. I don't want to do that. NetSH add, I believe. Nope. All right, I'm just going to look it up because I'm not doing a great job guessing. Port proxy. Do I mean proxy port? Interface. That's where it was. NetSH interface. Port proxy. You may or may not have known NetSH can do this, but look, we do NetSH interface port proxy add v4 to v4 to listen for IPv4 and proxy connect to IPv4. And this is what things like the Nishang proxy are using under the hood. So what you do with it, right, is you set up listen port, the IPv4 port on which to listen, the connect address, the IPv4 address to which to connect, the connect port, and then the listen address. And that is how you would create a one port proxy connection using the NetSH command straight without having to use another tool that you drop on the system. So in fact, we could actually just try to do that now that I think about it. Let's try add v4 to v4 listen address. It has to be an address that you control, right? So that would be, in our case, .10.200.196.150. 10.200.196.150. Listen port. Let's just make it 9999. And then connect address is going to be 10.200.196.100. And the connect port is going to be 80. Oh, I need equal signs, I think, between the arguments. It's funny, the last time I did this wasn't actually for pen testing. It was for... you know what it was? It was for spying on Malwarebytes. Because I found out that Malwarebytes has a service that doesn't use the Win iNet stack or the WinTCP stack, meaning that setting the global proxy settings in Windows didn't actually capture all of the traffic. So like if I wanted to send all of the traffic going out to a machine that was running Wireshark and say Zap to catch proxy traffic, there was something that wasn't honoring that. It was using its own network stack that wasn't honoring the HTTP proxy. So to force it, I basically configured NetSH to rewrite that IP address to a proxy and control it that way. Hey, that worked. So if that worked the way that I'm hoping, then going to port 9999 at that IP address, I'm going to need to set up Zap. Get up, Zap. Wake up. How was everybody's weekend? Since I haven't seen you since Saturday. I believe we had actually saved the Wreath session. We did indeed. So I'll reload that. Look at all these. Okay, so we're going to go to port 9999. Now, we might still have to... I know that's not true, Czar. I know you did something with the weekend. You were losing your mind over Pwn.college. Now, this might not work because we still need to set up the firewall. So we can look at the try hack me commands for that. Yes. Oh, that sucks. Finishing in 3 years is hard, though. Okay. Let's see if that does any better. Yes! God, this guy again. Hey, red team. Okay, but so just to recap what just happened, because I'm pretty happy with it, we were able to set up a proxy, a forward proxy, basically, through our Windows machine without having to use Chisel yet. Yeah, let me just move this over here. Much better. But yeah, so we were able to use NetSH port proxy rules, one of my favorites, to set up a single port proxy forward, so I could get to this website that was only accessible from this Windows machine. So we were able to set up a listen address here, set up to 9999, and then connect to the 100 that literally only this Windows machine can see. And then once we added a firewall rule that allowed inbound traffic on that port 9999, then my Kali machine was going to be able to, I'm sorry, you know what? Hang on a second. Much better. To see this site, because we were able to get that proxy going. I am by no means an expert in everything that NetSH can do, which is evident if you were here for the last 5 minutes, but I do know enough to know that it is something that you should be somewhat conversant in if you need to do interesting networking stuff like pivoting in Windows, just because there's so much powerful stuff going on in here. Not just ADV firewall, but also like the interface stuff that you can do. One neat trick that you can do is you can actually create a new network interface and pipe stuff directly to that interface, which you control entirely. So depending on how that's configured, it may bypass other monitoring that is going on in the system. Something to think about. Okay, so we're back onto this website, which is it the same situation where it was like administrative or dashboard? Just admin? Nope. Boy, I'm striking out here. What was it? Ah! You know what? We don't have to guess, though, because we can look at the original here and see what it was. Right, there was a get. So there really wasn't like a whole lot going on here, was there? Using the Wappleizer browser extension or identify the server-side programming language, including the version number used on the website. Well, we do have Wappleizer, so... The server is Apache 2.2.22. Was that what they wanted? Oh, the programming language. So it's going to be PHP 5.4.3. But it is. Oh, hold up. That's not the entirety of it, is it? There it is. It's actually wrong. The other place to look at that instead of Wappleizer is get it straight from the server header. So it's PHP 7.4.11. Interesting. So it says, and this is like my next thought, you know, is this a clone? Which browsers will, hey John Doe, which browsers will Wappleizer work within? Is there a difference in performance? No. Wappleizer will work pretty much everywhere. I know there's a Firefox version, and I'm using the Chrome version in Brave. So that's pretty much everything across the board, right? Now, I will say that... And there's really not a performance issue because all Wappleizer is doing, Wappleizer isn't active. Wappleizer is passive. All it's doing, and apparently incorrectly in this case, is it's reading HTTP response information off the, it's literally reading headers to find out what's up. And then it's inspecting some stuff. I shouldn't say that. It's also inspecting some stuff. So like if it sees patterns in what it reads from the source, things like that, it is doing some inspection there. But for the server-side stuff... Now, I will also say that there's another place you can run Wappleizer, which is in Zap itself. There is a Wappleizer extension available in the marketplace, which I don't have. Let's install selected here. And sure enough, once I have it here, let me reload the port 9999. Sorry about face. And now Zap should, Zap is going to give me information here as well. Now, I believe that the Zap version of Wappleizer is going to pretty much give me server-side stuff more than client-side stuff because that inspection's going on in the browser. And some of it's wrong, by the way. Because take a look at this. We've got 10.200, 196, 150, 9999. Okay, it can't... I mean, I guess it can be Apache and Windows. But that's pretty weird. It might actually be true in this case. But depending on what you're doing and how your sites are set up, Wappleizer can lie to you. Where it'll, like, tell you that it's running PHP when it's not. That happens pretty frequently to me. It'll often be like, oh, because like I don't know where it's getting this PHP version because for sure it's not this PHP version. I think sometimes it pulls that off of Apache. It just like assumes that if you're running Apache, you're running this version of PHP. So be careful with that. Okay, so, we could fuzz this site. It doesn't appear to be that different. Oh, I fixed Nimbuster, so we could actually use Nimbuster if we wanted on this thing. But for now, could there be a stub in the website that is available to other backends? Yeah, maybe. It's possible. But I mean, just like, I use Zap every day. And one of the things I've noticed is that if I'm on like an Apache server and it's serving me up a straight React page, it'll tell me that it's using PHP. And it's like, no, it's not. There's no PHP here. You just think it is because it's this version of Apache. Right, so I did fix Nimbuster, by the way. Quick aside. I did fix Nimbuster. So it is now ready for prime time. The problem was that it was trying to validate TLS certificates, and I have just stopped it from doing so because I know that it's an option that you can set in Feroxbuster and GoBuster and everything else with the -K, but like I've literally never cared for my directory brute forcing tool to validate TLS. I've never been in a situation where I want it to fail because it's not a valid cert. I've never been in that situation. I've only ever wanted it to not care, so I just made that the choice. Maybe later I'll add that as a command line argument, but it actually seemed like that was a keystroke I could save. So anyway, the latest version is available, 0.3.0. Huge thanks to Riley. How did the performance change in the latest version of Nimbuster? Not because the only change I made was to the TLS, so the multi-threading is still good as long as you have CPUs to run it with. We'll do it right now. How does it compare? J. Ross, hey, how does it compare to GoBuster and Feroxbuster? If you have the threads, it's competitive with Feroxbuster, and I think it's faster than GoBuster. But let's go get it. Yeah, just go download it from actual GitHub. Let's do Chmod first. Okay. So now let's do Nimbuster. And our actual target will be here. Let's see how this goes. Now, can I give it 3 threads? No. I need to up the CPUs that my Kali VM is using. Oh, snap! Oh, we're gonna have some fun with this. Okay, so we already found... I mean, I know it's my own tool, but I actually really like the way this output looks. I mean, I love Feroxbuster, but sometimes it's just a lot. All right, so that's exciting. We found a .git repository. Well, mine and Riley's. I can't credit Riley enough with how much help he was getting this thing off the ground and actually working the way that I wanted it to. Okay, so see if we can answer some of these other Try Hack Me questions. Extend. Give me more time. What is the absolute path to the website.git directory? All right, that we found. Let's go to C, git stack, repositories, website.git. Copy as path. By the way, for those of you who don't know how I did that, shift right click, copy as path. Oh, and we should actually do this with our evil WinRM. Some dark Windows magic. I guess. It's just one of those things that you pick up, yeah. I don't even like Windows. I always feel like such a goof when I'm working on Windows, when I'm working with some of my like Windows admin colleagues. They're like, oh yeah, just you fire up this specific control panel pane. Like, I have no idea where that is. You are going to have to point and click me through that. Lunkdraken, thank you so much for the follow. Poor Nimbuster. It's trying really hard. But with one thread, it's not awesome. With multiple threads, it's good. And we're asking a lot of this network interface at the moment. Remember, also, all of it is happening over this SSH shuttle tunnel. Fact, gonna kill Nimbuster so that we can get this website.git a little bit faster. I'm not a Microsoft fan, but I do appreciate it. Yeah, that is true. It was Terabad. I mean, you know, it's kind of funny because basically from Windows Vista, like after Windows Vista, so right as Windows 7 and then 8 became a thing, I stopped being a Windows network administrator, really, and largely was responsible for Linux machines that I was deploying because I wanted to deploy Linux machines, and then a bunch of Mac networks, interestingly. So I did have some Windows machines in the fleet, but I wasn't using Active Directory, believe it or not. I was using LDAP on Linux to do my authentication and PAM and stuff like that. So kind of awesome, but at the same time, I had to work my way back up to knowing things like Active Directory. And let's pour one out for server.app in the macOS landscape. That thing was beautiful around about Snow Leopard. So think 2010, 2011. Oh, I've heard about the old Apple Talk days. Yeah, I don't envy anybody who had to deal with Mac networks at that point. And even when they were Open Directory was trying to do Active Directory stuff like local synced profiles, that did not actually work. Okay, we're going to need Git tools for this. One way or another, we're going to need Git tools for this, so. Neon, thank you so much for the resubscription. I really appreciate that. Okay. This is taking its sweet time. There's another way. Yeah, I don't think this is actually working. And that's fine, because I did a thing. When I set up the remote desktop session, I set it up with a shared folder. Right here, which is actually set up to my Wreath folder here. So instead of relying on WinRM, I can, I think... This isn't going to be fast, but it'll be consistent. Oh, look at that. I wonder if it actually finished. It did. Maybe. I don't know why WinRM hung on it, but it looks like we got it. So we're going to MV this thing to .git. Okay. And they want us to use... That should have turned it into a Git repo, unless something went wrong. Because, like, if we go to literally any other... Yeah, we're missing stuff. Okay. Nope. It says it's there too. Alright, something went awry, so we're gonna... try that one more time. And we're gonna try it actually... the way I was planning on doing it. Yikes. That is working, though, because we're getting website.get, so it's slow, but it's working. Okay. Meanwhile... Fantastic. So we also have this Git folder, which may or may not be the same. Nerds. Well. There's a solution for that, too. We can use wget to make a clone of a site, and in the case of a Git repository, get the Git repository. Real easy. Yeah. wget recursive. And... site. All right, so that's cloning that. Meanwhile, 60% of the way there. So we're going to have both Git repositories available to us. And we can use the Git tools. Oh, I guess the dumper was going to do that for me anyway. That's, you know, it's okay to do it with the manual tools. So we'll see what we find there. This is a real thing, by the way. People leave Git stuff kicking around all the time, especially internally. Thrilling, I know, just waiting for stuff to complete. Questions, anybody? Doesn't have to be on topic. We've got some time. How close are we to clear with this? So it looks like we just have a couple of pieces to get onto the website, but oh, good. The dev site finished 10.299, and that's why I like doing it this way, because you can kind of see that because we got the .git, it already recognizes it as a Git repository. And what I can do then is actually just use Git. So I'm going to use git log. Initial commit for the backend. And then what I want to see really is what changed. So if I do git diff here, it will show me what got changed. Okay. So this is the minified CSS. More minified CSS. Wow, this is a very large commit. See if I can find filter somewhere. Here it is. Now this was removed. And this was from index.php. If is set post upload and is uploaded files file. So it looks like there's a file upload capability in here that was removed. That's font. I don't care about that. Interesting. Okay. And let's see what this is all about. Let's see what got added. A little jQuery. A little more of this. Can't rely on basic auth for everything. Ah. But what we can do, we don't have to just do it that way, right? Because we're looking at logs, but we can actually just, it's Git, right? So we can actually take this thing back in time. Before I do that, though, I'm curious what Try Hack Me wants me to do with this thing. Because, like, I know how I would walk through a Git repository, but maybe there's something that they want me to do that's of use. Okay. Extractor can be used to take a local Git directory, recreate the repository in a readable format. But don't I already have that? Let me exit out of... Is this finished? This is finished. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so we actually do need to do the restorer here. So let's do this. Scripts, git tools, extractor, extractor.sh, website.git, and destination dir website. There's no .git folder. Oh, interesting. So we'll do this. We'll do it. Website. There's no Git folder? Oh, hold on a sec. Website. There we go. Neat. So if we cd into a website restored, we have a couple of different statuses, which I bet you see the hashes here. They correspond to the commits that we saw over here. Interestingly, then all three commits are the same, which would suggest that the two repositories are the same, and that, you know, we have a lot. Right, so it's kind of done this for us. I want to show you the Git way without the Git tools. I want to show you the way that I would have done this without using Git tools. So we're going to get out of this website restored. Okay, so we cloned the Git repository from the website. And what we want to do with it is we want to use Git as Git to kind of go back in time and see what was up. So the first thing I want to do is do my Git log, and I can do like one line to make it fast. And I get the short version of the hashes. And I want to see initial commit from the, so it says git head updated the filter, initial commit for the back end. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to try this. I want to go back to the original, the commit for the backend that had the bad authentication, right? So if I want to do that, I want to do git checkout to that commit. And what you notice that my prompt changes, and this is kind of the cool stuff that I set up with Fish to make it look like this, right? This is not how it's going to look in a regular bash shell. But now I am kind of branched into that moment in time when that commit was made. And so the state of this folder is as it was at that commit. So if I do git log from here, you'll notice that the filter isn't there because in this timeline, it hasn't happened yet. So I can look at the files as they were at that point. So let's take a look at index.html right here. See what we have. Pretty static. Okay. Branch. Okay. go back to where we were. Okay, git log. Static website commit. All right, let's go back in time to that. Git checkout. Doesn't look like there's too much that's different. But what we will see is the stuff that got removed, right? Checkout dash git log, one line. Let's go back to our initial commit for the backend. Okay, git diff. Go to the end of our git diff. See if there's anything interesting here. Okay, is set not there. Git checkout. And what's our git diff here? Let's okay. It says updated the filter, but I can't tell where there was a filter. We definitely saw one, right? Before when we were looking at this stuff. Aha! Interesting. Okay. So that's really what we want to do here. Let's go back, git log. Let's go to our static website commit, git checkout. Oh, just kidding. Git checkout, because it didn't exist yet. Git log. Let's go to the initial commit for the backend. Let's get checkout to that point in time. And then let's go to resources. And let's look at index.php. Finally, we're on to something here. So, by the way, we have basic HTTP auth available on this page. So we got to figure out what the HTTP auth is. Is set post upload. If uploaded files. Array. Type. So this is important too, because it's using the content type for checking the file, which we can change ourselves. So we can spoof it. I think we can get a PHP reverse shell on this thing, if I'm not mistaken. Finish the styling, get Ruby more food, greedy animals going through it too fast, upgrade the filter on this page, can't rely on basic auth for everything. Okay. Hmm. I'm hoping that there's an HT access somewhere in here. There doesn't appear to be, which is unfortunate. But we've definitely gotten stuff. This is the way they're doing this, by the way, is like way harder, it seems like to me, than just getting the Git repository, since that was an option. So we're doing the code analysis here. What does Thomas have to phone Mrs. Walker about? The neighborhood watch meetings. Wait, was it British neighborhood? It was. Aside from the filter, what protection method is likely to be in place to prevent people from... Basic auth? Yes. HTTP basic authentication, which is what we're seeing here. Admin. Worth a shot, right? Okay. Oh, but we're looking at the old version of the filter. So we actually want to git checkout head. There we go. So we actually want to see what it looks like in the now. And in the now, instead of using the MIME type for checking the file, it's using the image size. Second line is an if statement with checks two conditions. Or not size. Let me say fail. So interestingly, this is just an image size thing, not a file type thing. Okay, so that's the filter sorted, but we still have that HTTP basic auth. The explode function is used to split a string at the specified character. So we're splitting the file between the file name and the file extension, basically. Yeah, But the way that they're doing this, right, this is a pretty classic one. If I name something image.jpg.php, it picks it up as a JPEG, not as a PHP. So which extensions are accepted? Commerce separated. JPEG, JPEG, PNG, and GIF. And can we access the uploads folder? No? Not a 403, an actual 404. Interesting. Okay. So what do they want us to do here? Oh, right. The other thing we were supposed to have done, which we did do, it's just that I don't think I remember finishing it, was stealing the passwords from the Windows server. So let's go ahead and get EvilWinRM going and make all that happen again. I'm wondering if the WinRM quick config got reset since we're having an issue with authorization, which is interesting. If so, we'll just rerun WinRM quick config. That, or I typed the password incorrectly, also possible. Yeah, maybe it was that. Okay. And I theoretically have Mimikatz loaded in here, so we're going to try that. I'm sure I invoke. So we're trying to invoke binary through EvilWinRM, documents, HM. And if that doesn't work, we're just gonna move it. Since we know we can do that. Yeah, I think it's because this is not an elevated shell. That's not going to work really the way that we would want. Because Mimikatz needs to be running in a high integrity shell. And that is not what we have with WinRM. So that's okay. We'll do this the quick and dirty way. This is one of those things that if we had been using a real C2 agent, might have been a little bit easier. The Covenant might have made this a little bit easier for us. Okay. But here we go. And then every time with this, I can never keep these in my head. We want to do logon passwords first, I think. Chat, you guys are quiet tonight. Hope everything's good. This is all machine accounts. Okay. So nothing there. Okay, nothing there that's interesting. We don't have a domain controller in play, do we? Right. Trying to exploit a box and beating your head against sharp objects. Yeah, well, the line forms behind me. Is it that, it was Thomas, but we also had Wreath, right? We actually had... Which I thought we did. Bob. Yeah, it doesn't have a domain. Forgot the token elevate step. Now we're system. Now we can dry secure our LSA. Or no, it was LSA dump Sam. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Now we've got an NTLM hash for my boy Thomas here. Let's see if CrackStation has something to say about that. So many crosswalks. Oh god. Yeah. I feel like we did get that before. Let me save that. Okay, so with that, let's see if we can go to resources. Right? Let's try Thomas. I love Ruby. Oh, neat. Cool. So we actually have the image upload ready to go here. And so that worked. 10.200.196.100. I'm doing a very poor job of taking notes, but I'm trying somewhat. That font is messing with me. It's like Comic Sans, but not. It's like just not quite Comic Sans. Okay, so obviously we have to kind of like, oh God, this page. Hey, the face changed. Yeah, this one's much more tolerable. Okay, so we're down here. So we're able to log in. And yeah, let's go ahead and download a real image. Do I have... I don't. Shame on me. There is an image I always use. Yeah. This is always the picture I use for... testing image uploads. Your issue is taking too many notes? No such thing. Note such thing. Well, no, there is. The trick is to synthesize rather than transcribe. There was a really interesting study done, God, like a decade ago now, maybe more, about the difference between... This is when laptops really started becoming a prevalent thing in college classrooms and seminars. And the study was about knowledge retention, memory retention, between students who were taking notes by hand and students who were taking notes in a word processor. God, a word processor, am I 50? Anyway, and what they found was that without all else being equal, the students who were handwriting their notes were retaining more information than the students who were typing their notes. But there's a huge gotcha in this finding, which is that the reason the researchers found that the handwriting there's nothing magical about using a pencil or a pen and paper. It was that handwriting is slower, forcing the students who were taking notes by hand to synthesize the information mentally before committing it to the page. Whereas the typers were actually able to basically be stenographers. They were transcribing word for word what the lecturer was saying without ever processing the information, right? They were just getting words down onto the computer without thinking about what was being said. That led to less retention because they were just transcribing, not synthesizing. If you can train yourself, if you're listening to something, and that's the kind of note-taking we're talking about, Leximator, maybe. I mean, that's certainly true, right? That not getting distracted is a discipline with a computer. But even if it's the only, because that was a control that they set up with the study, right? That they wanted to know about the difference between note taking, specifically, not other distractions on the machine. So they did lock it to be like just that application. They weren't browsing anything at the time. Also, this was really before this study came out before Facebook existed. So you're thinking 2007? Oh no, God, 2003, 2004? Oh, it's bumming me out. Anyway, the point was that synthesis of information is a discipline if you're typing, whereas it's a necessity when you're handwriting. So something to think about when you're taking notes. Okay, so this is cool. Let's try to upload that enterprise picture just to see if we can make this thing work. Okay, but it's not actually there, which is interesting. Is it resources/uploads? Ah, it is. Yeah, there it is. So we can see it. Cool. Okay. And so this is new to me. Still trying to get better at taking notes while testing something versus after the fact? Yes. Especially when you're going for certifications, that is an important skill. Phantom ringing syndrome while in class. Yeah. You know, I was a career educator, but I actually was a terrible student. I hated school a lot. I don't know how I ended up being a teacher for so long. But the mechanisms of school are almost, at least school as I knew it growing up, are almost diametrically opposed to what we know is good for learning. Almost without exception. Everything about it is designed to not create an environment where students can thrive. Oh, it's one of these. The easiest place to stick the shells in the EXIF data for the image. Easiest place to stick the shell is in the EXIF data, specifically in the comment field to keep it nice. We can then use EXIF tool to check the EXIF data. Take a regular image. I have done. So let's we can exit out of EvilWinRM here. So let's CP pictures, good old ent.jpg to here. And then we're gonna mv ent.jpg, ent.jpg.php, exif tool, ent.jpg. Okay. So we're gonna use the following payload for this. I like the PHP info as my test, so that's what I'm going to do, not what they're saying. Oh, there's a dash comment. Cool. Frozen Spirit says, I've always seen the school system as a K-12 daycare so parents can join the workforce and be a productive member of society. Except that's not what it is. It's not. Like, fundamentally, that's not what Thomas Jefferson said we need a public education system for. Hamilton might have disagreed because he was more interested in the industrialization of the United States eventually. But that's not why we have a public education system in the United States. Like, very specifically, we have a public education system in the United States to create not just an informed electorate, but useful citizens and moral citizens in general. That's why. And then as a function of society, like, the United States is not the only society that has invented the idea of centralized schooling. And by the way, this is something that has existed pre-industry and pre-capitalism. It's a function of society in which you amortize the cost of knowledge transfer from generation to generation. That's the role of school in a civilization, not just a society. That's what it is. Now, does that free up parents to do other stuff? Yes, it does. But it's not supposed to be about industry, and it's not supposed to be about labor. And in fact, one of the things that's really scary in a society, and a sign of societal decline, is when what gets taught in school is directly tied to what the labor market is interested in. if there's a one-to-one correlation between what is taught in school and what the labor market is interested in, you will over time have this diminishing returns about what knowledge is transferred from generation to generation. And you can kind of see this now as things like certain language departments start to close down, or classics departments close down, things like that. Access to knowledge shouldn't be limited to certain classes like wealthy and religious ones. Right, hence a public education system. And in fact, if the people who were putting their kids into private schools were not doing so, and actually were advocating for better public education because their kids were in there too, you'd have a much different situation now. And in the United States, what's totally insane is that public education, this is a rant, I'm sorry, but public education funding is directly tied to real estate taxes. Like, what? Are you kidding me? So the places that have the highest property values are the places that get to have the nicest schools? It's wicked. And I don't mean it in the Boston sense. It's morally bankrupt. All right, we've got this proof of concept here. Let's see if we can upload it. Okay, that worked. So we should be able to get to uploads ant.jpg.php. That is so cool. I've never actually successfully done the PHP embedded in an image. That is nifty. Okay, so obviously it works, which means we're just gonna do a super cheaty PHP. This guy right here. Now, if we want to get a reverse shell going on this thing, this is where it's going to get a little interesting, because what can this thing see, right? We don't know what this thing can see. Maybe nothing, maybe something. But let's change this up. Need single quotes. There's a difference between testing modern web app pages versus the old school way of creating web pages via HTML, PHP file system. Man, yeah, there's a big difference. So the truth is, if I come up across an application that is written in a server-side programming language like ASP or PHP, I am in heaven, because the odds are much greater that I'm going to find something to exploit. Just because of the way those things are written and because they're phoning home for a bunch of stuff. If I'm looking at like a single page web application that is written in React or Angular, as a web app pen tester, great, because I for the security of the organization, great. But for the the red teamer in me, I kind of get bummed out because there's a lower probability of something to be exploited. And that's because these frameworks are pretty well vetted, one, and two, they're client side. So yes, that's where like really where the rubber starts hitting the road for modern web apps is in the APIs that they are using. That's a big part of it. And those APIs, which are phoning home to a server, they may very well have exploitable code in there, even if the front end doesn't. So that's a difference in approach here. We haven't really played with APIs in this particular. It seems everything is oriented toward learning the non-framework way. I don't know if I agree with that. First of all, every coding bootcamp that you go to is going to teach you. It used to be that they teach you Rails, right? Ruby on Rails, which is a framework. But these days, you're going to learn React coming out of there. You're going to learn Angular coming out of there. So like the entry level front end stuff is going to be framework oriented. I actually believe that it is, unless you mean the web app pen testing stuff, not the web development stuff. In which case, you're right. I do think that learning how to test against modern JavaScript applications, client-side applications, is not something you see a lot of content on, in part because it's a lot harder. And there's still plenty of PHP and ASP applications out there. Yeah, there's plenty. I mean, that's part of it. And as I said, once you're in that realm, you're really testing more against the APIs at that point, if you find some. And there is some of that content, although I agree with you that there's a lot more work to be done in that area. Okay, that got updated. Let's go. File already exists. I have to rename it. So we're going to do resources, uploads, and to.jpeg.php. Uh-oh. I broke it. Oh yeah, I did. I forgot to close the PHP expression. Let's try that again. It's very hard to read, but it is in there. Now, it says Wreath PC Thomas. Can I run Who Am I Priv? Yeah. Net group. Every time. Every time. Oh, hell yes. All right, this is awesome. Very excited. So this shell, for reasons surpassing understanding, is executing in a high integrity. That's why I did the who am I /groups, which I eventually remembered. So remember, in Windows, you have 3 levels of process integrity, right? Low, super limited, restricted privileges, basic user, right? Medium is like you're an administrator, but you haven't elevated your shell. But you have, you know, substantial privileges on the system. Then high privilege, you know, you're an administrator on the system. That's basically a very poor way, but a quick way of describing it. And this group can tell you what level shell you're in, or what level process you're in. So here, we know that we're in a high integrity, because we've got the high mandatory level here, which means there's a lot we can do. First thing we can do is I would like very much to run winrm quick config and see if I am then able to access. It says winrm service is already running on this machine. And I'm Thomas. Wait, did I not do the thing? Yeah, we did. So we can try to see if this thing can see the other system, right? Ping 10.200.196.150. Just see what happens. So no, then it cannot. And I'm sure it can't see us. But let's see what happens if we disable the firewall. So we don't have as much privileges as I thought we did. That's unfortunate. Well, all right. Let me just confirm that it can't see us. Like, it probably can't, but I want to be sure. I'm also going to check my time on the room. Oh, snap. It can see us. That's incredible news. Oh, man. That's very exciting. All right, that'll make that easier. Oh, dang. Okay. Ooh. What do I want to do here? I mean, obviously, based on what they were saying, we have antivirus to evade. But I kind of want to not worry about this. So instead, I am... What time is my talk? Man, Frozen Spirit, thank you so much. I totally forgot to plug my talk. Yeah. So tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, I will be giving a Wild West Hack and Fest talk, or Wild Fest Hack and Cast, I suppose, which is kind of a revision and a redo of my talk about ed theory and self-teaching that I did for ShellCon. So if you saw that, it's going to be pretty much the same content, but delivered for a slightly different audience, you know, a slightly more technical audience. So I'll be changing up a little bit of the examples and how we talk about that. But yeah, you can register for that. Here comes a URL that you can have to go register for that talk. All right, so the other thing I was doing was... So we're going to use a little nim. Okay. And we're gonna, this is like, I'm pretty confident that this is going to work out. This worked out against, ugh, gross. Let me just go get the gist. So this is kind of cool. This is a tool that I've been playing with at work, actually. It's not proprietary or anything, but basically it's a wrapper that is a slightly modified version of the wrapper that we developed on stream. And what it does is we got to change up the shellcode address, which in our case is right here. If you remember what we did with the wrapper before, it takes either Cobalt Strike or Meterpreter shellcode, and it obfuscates it and then injects it into a process, right? Does create remote thread stuff as you would expect. Now, here's the trick. in our original version, we were embedding the shellcode directly in the source file here, and then therefore directly in the binary. I am not doing that this time. And instead, what I'm going to do, and I'm hoping this works, that's actually the first thing I'm going to check, is if I can make this work. And I'm going to check by doing this. So, Frozen Spirit, learn Python first. Learn Python first. All right, it doesn't look like that made it out, but that might have been a firewall thing. So I'm going to try HTTP instead to see if that's able to work. And I just have to run the server with sudo privs. If I can do this stuff that I'm doing in nim and Python, I would. So it can ping, but it can't. But that might be a PowerShell problem. So we're going to try something a little bit different. Instead of doing the PowerShell thing, we're going to use another living off the land tool. We're going to use good old certutil. Yeah. And obviously I'm not going to give it anything just yet. But I am going to give it the IP address. We're so close. We're so close. So all I want to do is see if certutil will hit my server. That's all I'm doing. Unable to fork. Oh, I bet it screamed at certutil.exe. We may have to do the other PowerShell version then, which I do have. I thought I did. What kind of a system are we even talking about here? What is what? Oh, this tool? This is the lastcc hack tool. This is a browser extension that is very important to me, and I use it frequently. If you look for hack tools in either the Firefox extension store or the Chrome web store, you will find it. And it has just kind of common stuff that you'll need to use, right? Reverse shell stuff. You put in your IP address, you put in your port, and it'll kind of fill in the command for you. Really just so handy. I use this all the time. So let's see what we're looking at here. Wreath PC. So server 2019. Server 2019 should have invoke web request. That shouldn't be a problem. But invoke web request only works in a very specific... Oh. Here you go. Heroes of Spirit. There's the GitHub, but it's also available on the extension stores. So actually it was... Yeah, that. Yeah. That's the one I wanted. We're going to try that. PowerShell.exe. No profile. Oh, wait, window style. Hidden. And we do URL. So this is all in service of making sure that I can get web communication from one place to another. That's what we're doing. What the hell? What just happened? Okay, I don't know why that's happening, but I do know that I have no interest in allowing that to continue. So we're going to do this through Zap and see what happens. Honestly, easier. Cool. That's upsetting. Unfortunately, it seems like I'm missing something here. So we'll go back to our Try Hack Me room, which is actually trying to walk us through it. I'm just being difficult. On disk evasion. AV detection methods. Do I really need to go through all this? But what are they doing? Oh, I see. So they're saying that it's not actually the firewall that's hitting us, it's antivirus, which, you know, makes sense. Although we actually got this already. Right? Because we already got code execution on it. It's just... Wreath PC/Thomas, right. So we've actually gone through that. So the question was... Oh, we were doing exactly the thing that they wanted us to do? So what was it that I was doing wrong? What output do we get when we try the cert util? Well, we know. System unable to fork. I think, if that's what they were going for. Wait, does curl exist on the system? Oh my god. Okay, well. Dope. Let's try that then. I want to make sure that this thing can still see my IP address. I keep forgetting that curl exists. Hey, there we go. Okay, now we're in business. So, very exciting. I am not going to do this the way that Wreath is telling me to, because now that I have a way of getting a network connection back and forth between these two machines, what I want to do is I want to use my tool. So my tool is this NIM injector, and what we're going to do is we have our IP address, right? And obviously we're going to hit port 8000. That's great news. And here's the trick. We need a shellcode. So no trouble. We're going to use Metasploit, like interpreter shellcode, but we're going to do something kind of cool to it. So we're going to do MSF Venom, and we're going to do Windows, and we're going to do Windows x64, because I want that 64-bit, right? And we're going to change the L host to be 10.50, because I don't need any proxies here. I just want this IP address. That's where I want the thing to phone home to. I want the L port to be 8889, sure, and the output is going to be... here's the trick, though. We're not going to do an executable. We're doing C#, and we're going to do mt.cs. You'll see why in a second. Actually, we'll call it mt.shellcode. Yeah. Okay, so mt.shellcode, and then... Great. Now, while we're... Oh, C#, not CS, C#. And I would be surprised if in the not too distant future, nim is one of these options. So it's gigantic, but we know that. But that's okay. The way we do this makes it okay. You'll see why in a second. So we're going to use in Metasploit. Let me zoom that in real quick. Actually, it's too much. Use exploit multi-handler. Set payload. Windows x64. x64. Interpreter. Reverse TCP. Set L host. Ton 0. Nope, doesn't work. Never does. Set L host to my IP address. Set L port 8889. And we'll run that in the background. All right, all good there. Now, here's what we're going to do with that shellcode. Let me open that up in this. Now, this is a hot mess, right? Look at all this. Here's the thing. I don't actually care about it in this current format. Here's why. What we're going to do is we're going to take, in its current form, the only thing I care about it is its length. 200,262 bytes. Okay, it's big, but we know that. We're going to go down and take that and put it here in our shellcode size. And then we do that -1. I should actually make this a variable so we don't have to do this, but it's fine for now. Here's the thing. In our original version of this, we actually had to paste all of that shellcode into this file. That was dumb because it gave us, first of all, a really unwieldy source file to work from, and it actually gave Windows Defender something to do. We're not going to give Windows Defender something to do this time. Instead, we're going to have this tool call out to retrieve the shellcode as kind of a second stage. So when we talk about stageless versus staged payloads, this is technically a staged payload, even though Meterpreter, from Meterpreter's point of view, it's a stageless payload. The staging happens before Meterpreter gets its paws on it. From Meterpreter's point of view, it's all one big blob, but we are staging it ourselves. So what this payload is going to do, it looks like pretty much a benign binary, because what it's kind of, except for the create remote thread, but basically it's going to reach out to our server to pull down the shellcode, and the shellcode is going to be base64 encoded. Now, we could do whatever kind of obfuscation we wanted. This is set up to do base64 encoding, and I actually have this programmed so that if we wanted to do multiple iterations of base64 encoding, we could. That is helpful because Defender, we know, sometimes will try to get cute and decode base64 if it finds it. So if you run it through base64 10 times, Defender isn't going to try to do that, because remember, the Defender has one big disadvantage even though it sandboxes and tries to execute some new executables that it finds, which is time. It doesn't have all the time in the world to sandbox this stuff and test it. So if you can make your execution go if you can make it just a little bit harder than Defender's willing to go, then you get past that particular sandboxing defense. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try one iteration. This worked for Cobalt Strike. I don't know if it'll work for Interpreter, but I think it should. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set this up to inject into notepad.exe. All good. The SC port is good. Good. Okay. Now we're going to modify our shellcode file a little bit, because we don't need, well, basically we don't need this line at all. Now we're going to use Vim to remove all spaces. There are no spaces, so we're going to remove all line breaks. And just in case there are any spaces, we're going to remove those too. Okay. This is our shellcode. Except we still have to base 64 encode it, right? So we're going to use, again, Vim to pipe this thing to base 64. And once more, we got to get rid of those new lines. There's our shellcode. We have to save that as note.txt. Why? Because that is what we're going to be hosting on port 8000 to pull this dang thing down. So that is what we're going to be expecting. Make sense? Now, this is all set up. Oh, actually, I did set this up, 200262. I just didn't set that into a variable. That's fine. Or I didn't use the variable, but it's fine. So now we're going to do nim c with ming w, nim interpreter, that compiles it into nimterpreter.exe. We're going to host that on port 8000, which we knew we were going to do anyway. And so back over to our web, we're going to do nimterpreter.exe and c Windows temp nimterpreter.exe. I would actually not do temp. I would do C program data if I could, which I should be able to. Okay, we got a hit. Okay. And then we're going to try to execute that file. And if this works, what we should see first is a get for note.txt, right? Again, on port 3000 or port 8000. And then we should get our interpreter session. There's note.txt. And we may have been shut down. We may have been shut down. Oh, unless I did something dumb with the source code. No, because that was from MSF Venom. So nimterpreter ran, it got note.txt. So the executable ran. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like I was able to get the interpreter shell. And that could be for a number of reasons. But let's go back to our shellcode. So this is why I do the multiple iterations. Just want to make sure this looks good. It does. And then we'll get out of here if this doesn't work. This is just the last thing I wanted to try. Okay. And now we did 3 iterations, right? So we have to change up our B64 iterations here. And we will try this one more time. We'll recompile it. We'll launch our server again. We will tell it to curl interpreter and put it in place, which it has done. Then we'll have it be like so. Got note.txt. Yes! All right, so we got remote code execution on this system using Nimterpreter. So, by the way, what was the difference? Literally 3 encodings of base64 versus 1 encoding of base64, right? Just giving Defender that little extra work to do is all it took. Now, again, I should be in a high. Hey, Joe. I always forget how to do this. Is it, oh, is it just... This should not work because, yeah, we're not running a system. I mean, we should be able to get the token, but at any rate, incognito. Oh, load incognito. Thank you. Drat. Yeah, not running a system. So it's the weirdest thing. Check this out. I'm in, technically, a high integrity session, but I can't do anything with it. Just kind of weird. But regardless, let's see what what else they wanted us to do here. Oh, that's a good point. The potato or Prince Spoofer. What does Who Am I Priv give you? Yeah, that. So I've got impersonate and create global. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, as a matter of fact, was there... Oh yeah, there it is. Good call. One of the privileges is let's create global, right? No, wait, is that impersonate? Yeah, it's impersonate. Yeah. Well, way to log roll. I know your GitHub username. That is handy. I want to see what else they have in store for me here. Yeah, I'll run this. It's fine. So they said, what is the name of this service? That are not in C Windows. This should cut out. Oh, one does not have quotes around it. Mm-hmm. So, Yoda Dog, Mimikatz requires elevated privileges to work. And although we do have the capability of getting an elevated session, we don't have one currently. It looks like they want us to do service. Oh, it's running. Yeah, they want us to do service hijacking. Without using access check. Yeah, that's what it is. It's unquoted service path. Okay, so for privilege escalation, yep. Yeah, that was right up here. Oh, is it slightly different? So, oh, that's cool. What the what? No, we absolutely do not need to install mono. So Joe, just to catch you up, the payload that we used, which I'm going to reuse, is here, written in NIM. And it's a very simple create remote thread, very similar to what Metasploit or Meterpreter does normally. But what this does is it obfuscates the shell code in this case, a triple encoding of base 64. And what that means is that, first of all, the NIM binary by itself passes muster. It does not get caught by Defender. And once you encode the shell code, which it phones home to retrieve and then decode, once you do it 3 times, Defender stops caring about this thing because it doesn't go to the trouble of decoding the thing 3 times. It'll do one pass and say, don't know what that is, and then leave it alone. And so this is a super handy way of getting, and I know for sure this works with Cobalt Strike as well, because I've done that at work. Real handy. Windows can't make sense of the Python executables. Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. All right. I said I was going to stop, but I actually do want to get... I do want to get system on this thing. So... what we're going to do is... I'm going to have to recompile this, actually. With different shellcode. Because... Actually, is the listener still running? Okay, so the listener's running again, which means we can reuse the same binary. So sessions 1. What is the benefit of using nim? So Maximur, the benefit of using nim is, I think, for this stuff, I like nim as a language, but for this stuff in particular, is right here in the WinIm library. Look how clean the interface to the Windows API is. This is the secret sauce here. This is why nim has become kind of a pet for us here on this channel, because it's so clean interacting with the Windows API, right? It's a Pythonic way of doing it, which you don't usually get in a systems programming language, right? It's a lot cleaner than Rust. It's performant as Rust. And so when you need to interact with things like that, it's just a great choice. That's why. It's easy to write, it's crazy fast, and it's very powerful. That's why. Those are the benefits. I've yet to find a downside, honestly, with using nim. I keep looking for one, and I haven't found it yet. Okay, so what we're going to do is... if we scroll up here a little bit, we learned that this System Explorer service, right? And we're gonna copy that with tmux. So we're going to do... Ah! Dang it. Oh god, right, because I'm in shell. What is a copy? This is where my Linux starts showing. Yes. Oh, it is running. So we have to stop it, right? And it was called System Explorer Help Service. So sc stop System Explorer Help Service. It's actually both, if I understand it. Because we did the access check on it too. Yeah, it's actually both, Joe. We can do it either way. It's unquoted, but it's also, if I'm reading this right, the path to System Explorer is writable. Oh, maybe it is. We go to system.exe. Okay, that worked. And then try this. Very funny. Service did not respond to the start or control request in a timely fashion. But, oh, that feels good. That feels good. All right. Get that. Okay. So we have system. Oh. John Doe, you're talking about for tomorrow. John Doe, you should be able to join right from, like, I've never listened to a Wild West thing through an app. It should work through the browser. Okay, this is just cleaning up after ourselves. Exfiltration. What is the administrator NT hash for this target? Let's go get that. Now that we have Kiwi. Credits all. But that's not the administrator hash, right? Unless that's what they wanted. It is not. What is it? LSA dump Sam. My eyes haven't figured out how to read. There it is. How to read maybe Cat's dumps just yet. I never know exactly where I'm looking at. Friends, we completed Wreath. For what reason is HTTPS preferred over HTTP encryption? Encryption. All right. Now, we didn't do some of the, like, the tool-based stuff, but we have owned this network. And it only took 2 nights. 2 long nights. So, thank you so much for hanging out. I had a blast doing this. This was a lot of fun. And I'm so glad. No, add your own user for persistence. Yeah, exactly. Oh no, that was cool. And so I will be back tomorrow night doing some programming, same time. And I keep forgetting to log roll this, but I will be doing a talk tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific. Ed Theory for Hackers. I'll be doing this with the Wild West crew. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check out this link here. It's if you are in the if you self-teach, right? If you learn the skills on your own with minimal guidance from other folks, you want to check out this talk because it's about how to use what I know as an educator and what I want you to know as an educator to maximize your results as an autodidact, as a self-learner. So join us if you want. It should be a great time. But until then, let's see if there's anybody we can send you to. I don't know if Lone Johnny is actually streaming right now. It looks like he is. So with that, we are going to, in fact, give Lone Johnny a bit of a raid. And so I select from the hack list. So if they're on the hack list, that's where we go. But we're going to raid Lone Johnny. But until next time then, friends, please be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and I will see you next time.